getting access to cash and capital is smart. And he's talking about tapping into his lines of credit. I think it's a good idea. Now, some people are going to like cringe when I say that because they just think number one rule is stay out of debt. But the number one rule is to create more cash flow. The next thing is to create more profitability. The next thing is to make sure that you're finding new ways to create that cash flow. And we're in a major opportunity coming our way. So if you don't have access to capital, you're going to miss out on those opportunities. So if you pay interest to access that capital, look at it as like an insurance policy. Whatever interest you're paying is insurance to have access to that cash. Is it worth to pay that insurance premium or that loan interest in order to get access to that capital? In times like now, I would say absolutely, certainly yes, unless you're absolutely destructive with money. Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. Today on Ask the Money Nerds, we've got a question. And it's really around, should you be stockpiling cash right now or maybe paying off loans? Are life insurance companies safe amidst all this COVID and everything going on and the 1.8 million small businesses that either closed or went bankrupt according to a Wall Street Journal article? So how do you protect yourself and prepare yourself for opportunity? It's a big question today, Stolba.
It is. Very big. Scott wrote in with a very detailed question.
Good.
And we have Dale with us.
Happy to be here.
Because we want Dale's expertise on this topic. You know, one thing that I was thinking about on my way here, I was in the elevator in my apartment and one of the ladies was like, is it Friday yet? And I was like, it's only Tuesday, honey. She's like, I'm ready to retire. And she goes, I don't think my 401k plan will allow me to do that at my age. And I kind of shivered on the inside and cringed a little bit.
Because you're like, it will never allow you to do that.
I know. I didn't know what to say anything. So I just said, have a good day, you know. And
you got to find a job that you like. Mm-hmm. You got to find a career that you enjoy, a life that you don't want to retire from. That's the real game. Mm-hmm. Like if we're doing things we hate in the name of being able to love a life eventually, that eventually almost never comes. And it's kind of one of the crippling, decimating philosophies that are unfortunately plagued amongst Americans. So I despise that philosophy, and I'd rather see her happy because guaranteed she has great mental capital in there. She's got gifts somewhere, probably hidden and destroyed by trading time for money. And then you're exhausted on a Tuesday and wishing it's a Friday just to have the weekend. I mean, we need to, you know, it just makes me think of Batman when the very first one of the joke is that this town needs an enema. You know, it's like we need a retirement enema. Like get rid of the garbage and the crap. So yeah, you know, that's just what came to my mind, and I have no filter. So there you go.
I love it.
I love it. Dale, what's something that you love about your life?
Man, I just got a new e-bike the other day.
Oh,
and
fun.
I am absolutely loving it. I'm out on the roads probably 10, 15, 20 miles every single day. It is just so invigorating to get outside. We take my dog, he'll run alongside me. It's been beautiful. I love this COVID-19 era that we're in right now. I'm outside enjoying it more than ever.
What's something you love about your life, Gunderson?
I just led a whiskey tasting last night, which was a lot of fun and ironic considering I don't drink anymore. I also worked on the roast, which is this, my really good friend, Mike Klein and Aaron and I, we put together this project where we built an art cart that follows behind an e-bike. It's like a trailer, and it's got this like really bougie kind of Victorian type of seat that my wife could sit on while I'm pulling her. And then we have like battery and a generator. And then we have like an espresso machine that you put up and these lights that say the roast. It's got a killer sound system. So when there's events one day again, I can drive and, you know, I can roast people while I make them coffee. So comedy and coffee, two things I'm very passionate
You're very
about.
good at that.
You're going to get roasted whether you order the coffee or not, Stolba. So,
I can't escape it, huh?
What about you? What's something you love about your life?
You know, I love...
Other than this time here next to me doing the Ask the Money Nerds.
Here,
yeah.
Is it not me that you are grateful to be by?
Yes.
I'm so offended.
My favorite. I've said this before, but I love dancing. I haven't been able to social dance for a long time, but...
You're doing like 6 feet away, like salsa dancing? Like
I'm mediocre at it, but it brings
me so much joy. Is Dirty Dancing your favorite movie?
Is it in your top 5? That as a kid. You know, I don't know if it'd be my top 5, but I love the soundtrack. Give me one of your
top 5.
I'm so bad with movies.
Come on, like I'll give you the world. I Am Sam. I watched it on the way to my honeymoon on a flight, and I was crying, and I was trying to like not let people see me cry at that show.
Yeah, that one like came out when I was in high school, so that's really, really old. But I don't watch a ton of movies. I love documentaries.
Favorite documentary?
Oh, Garrett, you're putting me on the spot.
Dell, favorite
I'll tell
movie?
you, my favorite movie is Dead Poets Society. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
coming
that is
out,
good.
Robin Williams, right?
Carpe Diem, seize the day.
Yeah, that is a good one.
I love
let
that
me
show.
think about my favorite documentary, and I'll get back to you. It's probably something around like food and nutrition and farming, and Joel Salatin's like my farming
and
hero.
salsa dancing while you make salsa.
Hey, if there was someone who was a farmer who also salsa danced.
We'll give Stolba's number afterwards.
Oh, no.
It'll be in the comments.
I think we should.
Address and phone number.
I would
Email.
karate chop you in your throat like that really hard. Okay, we're going to get into Scott's question here before we get ourselves into trouble. Okay, Scott's question. He says, I'm interested to know when, during these times, you would recommend low cash flow index debt be paid down. With everything going on, I'm now holding cash.
Let's pause. Explain cash flow index real quick for those that
Well, so there's a lot of different systems, and this is a really great point of paying off debt. And now may or may not be the right time to do that. But there's the avalanche system, the avalanche method that we hear from Susie Orman, which is basically you've got to pay down the loans that have the highest interest rate first. There's the Dave Ramsey approach, which is forget about the interest rate. Let's just focus on paying off the loan with the smallest balance, and then have psychological wins and just pay off the rest in order from smallest to largest. The cash flow index is completely unique and different than anything that has been designed out there, because what we'll do is we'll actually analyze the loan itself, and we'll look at the balance of the loan and what is the monthly minimum payment. Not what you're actually paying toward the loan, but what's the monthly minimum?
What's required?
What's required to be paid, right? And so it's
Sometimes
a simple
people
formula.
pay more and they're above the minimum, or they're doing biweekly payments or something.
Correct. Yeah. So when we're calculating this, just take that out. Any extra payment you're making. So you'll take the balance of the loan and you'll divide it by the monthly minimum payment, and that'll kick out a number. And that number will be anywhere between 0 and 300 typically. A score under 50 is typically what we'd call a danger zone debt. And so with those type of loans, we want to just pay off as quickly as possible. Now the question is now the right time to do that? So let's kind of finish up what he's asking here.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's a question that a lot of people have, because as people are not working as much, income is down, they have debt, but then they don't have that peace of mind, and they're looking to do something to create a situation that feels more secure for them. So it's like, I got to get rid of the debt because it's bringing me stress, but then I also need the cash flow to live on. And so I think this is a common situation. Yeah, it feels very like it just feels like a challenge.
You almost
situation.
like salsa dance to that question. I felt like right there.
Feel the rhythm, feel the ride. Okay. So next part to that, with everything going on, I'm now holding cash more closely, including loaning everything out of my cash value life policy. In parentheses, he says, the bank seems fine as the Fed isn't missing a beat, but life insurance companies use banks too. And I'd hate for mine to get squeezed, and I did work for a mutual life insurance company in the early 90s that went bankrupt. So maxing out all of my personal and company lines of credit is something that he's doing. 3 of 5 income streams have gone to 0. So I no longer feel like 3 months of reserve is enough, and 6 months seem too little as well right now. I believe the 3 streams might come back in July or August, so right around the time that we're filming this. I'll bet not to level it, good heavens, I'm stumbling over my words today. Let me start that sentence over. I believe the 3 streams might come back in July or August, not to the level it was, but I might lose another and the largest income stream by the end of the year. So I'll continue building up a bigger wealth opportunity cash fund, but what besides enough money to pay off debt should I plan as my trigger to start paying down the low cash flow index debt? There's a lot there. Did you pick it up in my stumbling of the words, Dale?
I did. Yes, okay. I did. So, and Garrett, I'd love to hear your feedback on this too. But my first thought on this is that the cash flow index, in my opinion, is the most efficient way to pay off debt, but that doesn't mean that you should always follow it. There's actually a system, and I actually call it the 90-day debt delay, and Garrett talks about that as well. And I think this COVID-19, crisis right now that we're going through, warrants that. And maybe it's a 120-day or 150-day debt delay, where instead of putting that extra money toward paying down the loans, stockpiling cash, building that up for liquidity. Because here's the deal. If you put extra money towards your car, you pay extra money towards your house, if you try to aggressively pay down those student loans, you're locking that money up in equity jail. That money is no longer accessible to be borrowed against or to take out. And if, this continues, you lose your job. This could be a bad crisis for you. So it's really important to build up liquidity. And I know there's some other financial pundits that disagree, that say that you should just pay everything down, even now. And I disagree on that.
You might put yourself in a worse situation if you're paying off a loan,
Right.
and all of a sudden you have that loan go down in balance, and then the bank takes that available balance away. If it's like a credit card or a home equity line of credit. What Dale's saying is when it's amortized, it already automatically takes it away, because you pay it down, you can't get the money back out with refinancing. And if you're in a cash crunch, it's really hard to refinance. Banks love to lend money to people who don't need it. When you really need it, they don't want to lend it to you. So my methodology here would be the 3 R's. One is look to restructure your loans. With interest rates as low as they are, now's a good time to restructure, because maybe you can lengthen the loans to have a lower payment. That doesn't mean that you have to wait longer to pay off the loan. That's the misnomer that people kind of fall victim to. It means that you have more control of your cash flow, and when you have all the money to pay it off, you can just pay it off in one fell swoop. So restructuring loans and lengthening them, or even restructuring them where you're pulling other loans that have higher payments into loans that make it a lower payment, like a mortgage or something like that, in times of crisis like right now. The second is renegotiation. If you're going from a non-collateralized loan to a collateralized loan, like a car or a home, you can get a much lower interest rate than a credit card, unless it's maybe an introductory rate with the credit card. So that could be really helpful. And the third one is what we want to be careful of, and I think it's really direct to Scott's question, is reallocation. Reallocation is if you have an underperforming asset and you're like, well, if I cash that in, I could pay off a higher interest rate loan and free up cash flow. The problem is with his income being uncertain and some of it being shut down and cut off, getting access to cash and capital is smart. And he's talking about tapping into his lines of credit. I think it's a good idea. Now, some people are going to like cringe when I say that, because they just think number one rule is stay out of debt. But the number one rule is to create more cash flow. The next thing is to create more profitability. The next thing is to make sure that you're finding new ways to create that cash flow. And we're in a major opportunity coming our way. So if you don't have access to capital, you're going to miss out on those opportunities. So if you pay interest to access that capital, look at it as like an insurance policy. Whatever interest you're paying is insurance to have access to that cash. Is it worth to pay that insurance premium or that loan interest in order to get access to that capital? In times like now, I would say absolutely, certainly yes, unless you're absolutely destructive with money. He's an investor. He's got several investments. I don't see that being the situation with Scott. Other people, as soon as the dollar shows up, $1.15 is spent. Don't ever get access to cash. Get rid of every credit card. Never borrow money. Rent instead of buy. If you're not going to be responsible for your finances and you mistreat money, it's going to mistreat you.
Yeah.
And, unlike bad relationships that might stick around, money just goes out the door.
Yeah.
It doesn't, It's not partial. It doesn't, hold on for hope for a better future. It just says, I'm gone. So these are the things we have to pay attention to. So I think that's quite a bit of information for Scott, really, and hopefully some good, insights. Go ahead.
And here's one tip that I'd share as well. And I've heard you talk about this before, Garrett, as well. But Scott, if you have a fully paid off car, one thing you could do is go to the bank and take out a cash out and refinance the car, because right now interest rates on vehicles are 2.5%, 3%. Maybe 1.5%. I mean, they're ultra low right now. If you have higher interest loans, this is a great way of, lowering the payment and lowering the interest rate as well. So just another thought, food for thought.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'm curious to know, like when you talked, Garrett, about, if you're not good with money and it comes your way and then you spend more than what you have, how can someone then begin to assess, like, how do I reshape my money personality, the associations that I have with money coming in or going out? Do you guys have any thoughts on, just from your own life experience, how you've worked through your money, your relationship with money, and how it's grown and changed over the years, and how you've overcome like little hiccups that, maybe at one point in your life kept you stuck or not as liquid?
Well, I used to be a miser. And I think Garrett and I can both agree. When I was growing up, I lived off peanut butter and Miracle Whip sandwiches because that's what was in the fridge and that's what I ate. And I kind of carried that into adulthood, and that just, that personality just, permeated everything that I did. When I would buy Christmas gifts for my kids, I would literally go to Deseret Industries, which is a local Goodwill, place here, and just buy, spend a couple dollars on their Christmas presents, because who needs really nice Christmas presents is my thought process. And so that, it wasn't until I met Garrett and started realizing that I was really caught up in that scarcity mentality, that miserly mentality, that I realized that I needed to shift. And so that's kind of been a transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. But I had the opposite problem of, having no debt, but, not spending any money on myself.
So I could talk about this for several days. As you know, we're going on a little play around this topic, but most people are trapped in a losing game. And that losing game happens when they put money above all else. And a lot of times they see money as power. And the more money I have or the more things I can buy, the better I am, the more other people will like me or the more I could show off. I mean, or the safer I'm going to be. Like, there's these different games. So the first shadow persona of money is the miser that Dell talked about, which is playing a game called preservation. It's scrimping, saving, sacrificing, delaying, and deferring so that one day, someday, they'll have funds they never spend. Right? It's just, what can I do to save? What can I do to eliminate? Then you've got the conservative, which is they're a little bit more of an investor where they're going to put money into retirement plans, but they're going to try to save the highest percentage of their retirement fund or into their retirement funds through delayed gratification, delayed happiness, and they're kind of condescending. They think they know everything. Dave Ramsey's the perfect example of that. Then the third thing is we have strivers. These are the people that hustle and they try to scale and they'll work harder at all costs. And they play a game called status, which is like, hey, do you like me now? Look at all the stuff I have. And then there's the high roller, which is the last money persona, which plays the game called opportunity. They win big, but they lose big. There's a lot of kind of body bags after they're gone of people that have lost their life savings. And, there was these high promises. So those are the shadow personas of our money personality. And if we're stuck in the consumer condition looking to take more from the world than we give to it, if we think that someone owes us something, if we think that profit is evidence of deception, if we think that fear, doubt, and worry is going to help us out with our finances, or we don't want to pay attention to our finances, prosperity is only a game of responsibility. And what it takes is a hard look and say, why am I spending? Am I spending because I don't feel lovable? Am I spending because, I want something because I feel I deserve it because I've worked so hard, but even though the money's not there, I'm going to do it anyway? Like, I grew up in a coal mining town where people had to sell their truck, but they kept their boat because I worked so hard in the coal mine, I deserve that boat. And so those types of notions are about outward spending versus inward reflection or investing in ourselves to get clear about how can we produce more value? How do we deliver more to others? How do we solve problems? How do we serve others? And then we can flip to this place of vision, value creation, and discover our hidden capital. Our hidden capital is our mental and relationship capital. And when we invest in our mental capital, we have ideas, knowledge, and skills that can serve other people, and actually dollars follow that value that we create. But we have to heal from this losing game of trying to impress others with our money and trying to buy ourselves happiness instead of like finding happiness within. And so it's a big question still, but as you know, we've got a few videos on it. We got a book coming out on it. So I just think that when we can stop thinking like we're unlovable, unworthy, or any of those uns, and we can just embrace like a life that we love based upon us creating a game worth winning. Creating a game where we serve others and we solve problems and it's consistent with who we are and what we want to achieve in the world, not at the expense of another, but by complementing another. It's a completely different world. So look, that's a great final question to turn your thoughts into profits and to build the life you love. If you go to wealthfactory.com/megakit, we've got a cash flow guide that you can download, plus my book, Killing Sacred Cows, which helps you identify scarcity in your life and instead embrace more abundance. And even another book. So there's 2 books and a guide. It's on me. Just give me your email so we can stay in touch and we'll add value to your life.